looking at what the scientists said with the cosmic bell experiment, which is one of the most exciting things in science. Like, if you're actually excited about science, you should be excited about this, because scientists, in order to propose that quantum entanglement wasn't the result of some sort of interference or location on Earth interference, they tested photons from a quasar 6 billion light years away, if you believe in such a thing. And the particles, the photons, are entangled from the other side of the universe. So this isn't a local phenomenon. Well, the scientist who came up with the theory, I've got an interview with him, and it's about 4 or 5 minutes, and basically it shows, what does it show? I see the glitching. I wonder if this is our internet. I don't know. We'll try and fight through the tech issues. So basically it shows that how he came up with this plan to do this, who Einstein was, how radical this idea was, how they were going to test it. And then I want you to see the other scientists talk about it. The MIT physicist who wrote the book How the Hippies Saved Science. And basically him saying that the information of quantum entanglement was banned out of the prominent physics review book. Now, there's some interpretation that it was banned because they didn't want to talk philosophy. There's other interpretation that they just didn't want to accept this immaterial substrate of this reality. And that's my biased base deduction. Before I go any further, I will be clear. I don't think we know how the universe got here, or when, or what we're doing here, the nature of reality. This is one of the more unfortunate realities that we are in because of basically being force-fed to believe in secular materialism. People don't sit under the stars anymore and look up and go, how did we get here? What are we doing here? What is the point of this? This is what our ancient ancestors did, and it was beautiful. And we don't look up anymore. We look down. And I'm guilty of it because I make content, and so I'm constantly doing this. We look down at our phone, we just stare at our phone, and the phone tells us how we got here, the nature of reality, which is really non-romantic. I would call that aromantic. Okay. So it's just going to be a couple videos, my take on a couple of the videos, and then I'm going to get away from Einstein. I did Dino Week. I'm in Einstein Week. I'm going to move away from this, and I think I actually kind of I have an announcement to make. It could be the algorithm. A lot of creators are saying that their plays are way down, but this last video that I posted has less than 400 views. We have 250,000 followers, 240,000 followers. So we're just not getting any traction. The Einstein hippie video that I made has sub 20,000 views. You know, we were getting hundreds of thousands of views consistently. So the question is it worth the time? I put 30 hours into that Einstein video. Is it worth the time to do the Einstein video for 30 hours and put it up and have it go to 1/10 of our followers and not to any of the secular world, which is who we're trying to reach? And the answer is possibly not. Right? Just, this takes money. We're supported. Is this the best way to do it? You know, Inspiring Philosophy is a good friend of mine, and he started on YouTube. He's got 250,000 followers, subscribers, and then he came over to TikTok because they're already, as a Christian, they're limiting his algorithm, his views. He used to get 100,000, now he's getting 18,000. So he's coming over to TikTok. I'm like, yeah, come over here. The water is great. And I was trying to help him build his channel. And anyways, we don't know. I mean, it looks like Christian intelligent design content is not something that Google wants to push. So the plan is, I wrote down 10 videos to change the world. I had a business meeting with Elia today. Let's see if I have the stick-to-itiveness to get through 10 videos, but these aren't going to be 1-minute TikTok fancy goldfish, done. These are going to be like, I think the first one we might cover is the flood. The whole thing. the science and the history and the oral tradition and Yuval Noah Harari and Nimrod and 2 Peter 3, etc. The whole thing, which is going to be hard for me to do because I really like the TikTok videos. I like researching something all morning, recording all afternoon, editing all evening, and putting out a TikTok video. But if we're just not going to get run, I think this is the direction to go. Because in theory, with YouTube at least, it would be consistent getting eyeballs. And one of the reasons we haven't pushed YouTube is we really want to push this to the secular world. And I'm concerned with YouTube that won't happen because it just goes to your subscribers. But that's kind of where we're at. So, we'll talk about it on the Discord group, but starting today, I was researching and brainstorming and starting to make notes. I'll probably post one more TikTok video saying, with just text on it, something like, we're taking a hiatus. Nobody sees our video anyways. It's fine. We'll be doing the live shows still. We're still going to do the live shows, which I'll probably do. I'll probably do this for an hour, and then I'll go to the live show, and we can engage with atheists. Right. Okay, cool. All right, so let's take a look at this. That's not what I wanted to look at. I thought about just doing a show with you guys where we just watch this. As a science nerd, I love this information. Absolutely love it. This it's called the Cosmic Bell experiment. Is one of the most exciting things we've ever seen in science. And if you're at all nerdy with science, you should be excited about this. This is the guy who came up with it. Young Lass. This young lass here was hanging out with his buddies, and they had this idea. How are we going to test quantum-paired photons from across the universe? This is going to be about 3 minutes. Tell me if the audio is okay.
It belongs to everybody, not just the people who are lucky enough to do it for a living. So I hope that tonight's event will continue to spread the excitement of what it's like to be involved at some research at the forefront of scientific knowledge. And in these opening remarks, I'm going to take the opportunity to tell a story which is, a personal story about what for me has been nothing less than the scientific journey of a lifetime. And I've been able to work with amazing scientists from all around the world on a crazy experiment where we use the entire universe to learn something about quantum mechanics, the theory of nature, on the smallest of scales. And we are specifically interested in the phenomenon of quantum entanglement. And we use astronomical observations of distant galaxies to help us understand this phenomenon. And in this spirit, I'm going to share some stories, some behind-the-scenes things that didn't quite make it into the documentary, including the uphill battle that it took to make this experiment happen, as well as some near disasters where it really seemed like the universe was trying to destroy our experiment before it started. And I'll also try to give some additional background on the main scientific and philosophical issues which are at stake.
So, you heard him say that they're probing the very nature of reality. And they're looking for it on the smallest levels. So if you don't know what quantum physics is, it's tiny physics. Just take a little bit of the luster away from that. It's tiny physics. When you look down at not just an atom, but what makes an atom. Atom. Not an atom. We know atom is made of dirt. I need a symbol. I need a desk symbol. For sure. What makes up an atom? You get into this quantum world where things are totally bizarre. They're bizarre. They change. They weigh more than they should. They talk faster than they should. They wait for you to observe them before they decide what they are. It's weird. So he's talking about the nature of reality and the quantum size. And this made me think of Hebrews 11. This to me is yet one of the strong, I should have used it on the debate I was in this morning, evidences that Scripture talked about this reality. This was written 2,000 years ago. I like the King James version the best. By faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God. Bible code. Simulation hypothesis. The worlds were framed by the word of God. Framed. Think of computer coding. Think of the strings of code like in the Matrix. That scene I just put on my video where Neo is seeing the nature of reality back there. It's all strings of code. It looks like the hallway is framed in. For by faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God. Can you just imagine the word of God framing this reality? Like, I can, but I'm crazy, so that's easy for me. So that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. Quantum physics in the Bible. Give me another holy book with this kind of quantum physical leaning. You watched the simulation video. That's awesome. I appreciate that. That's cool. Yeah, I'm going to remake the operating system. This is the poster for when we premiered it in Denver. Okay, so thank you for doing that. There's two takeaways from this Hebrews verse. The first thing you could think of like atom theory, atom. For by faith we understand that things that are seen are not made with things that are seen. Like something underneath this that you can't see. Like it'd be very easy to look at this table and go, yeah, that's made of table. This is a table. This is a mouse and it's made of mouse. Mouse all the way down. It's not. It gets weirder and weirder as you get smaller. So Hebrews says, for by faith we understand that the world has been created by the word of God, so that what is seen has not been made of things that are visible. I'm going to postulate tonight, and I didn't use this in the operating system, but when we remake it, I'm going to put these kind of... I want to make like a gradient of the operating system, like the real poppy one like I did, but make them more like the simulation in the Bible video series. I've been wanting to do that, which I think is coming on one of these 10 videos to change the world plan. The next layer of this, things that are seen are made of things that are unseen, to me is the quantum realm. It's this bizarre, amorphous, ambiguous, moving information state. That's why I say it's an information-based reality. And this scientist is getting to look at this, to probe the nature of reality, how excited he is about this. So, when you do science, you're interpreting data. What worldview do you use? I believe in God. I interpret the data. It supports the idea that there's a God. These people don't believe in God. The data supports that there isn't a God. That's partially true. If you look at the data not believing in God, you can either find data to support this idea or you come up with a null value, which is what they're coming up with quantum entanglement. This is a null value situation. They can't figure it out. They just can't figure it out. This is something, there's a couple problems. The standard model's in trouble. The standard cosmologic model, the standard particle physics model, the consciousness hard problem. We've got some problems. And all is related to, they just punt on there being a God and consciousness being relevant to the plot. They just punt on that. That's their thing. There's no God. Consciousness is a product of material processes. Well, if it's not, which it doesn't seem to be, where could it possibly come from? Sentience. And where could the universe go? If you punt on these two ideas, God and consciousness being immaterial, you just keep getting a shit answer, which is what they keep running into. So, he's going to talk for about another minute, and then maybe a minute and a half, and then he's going to talk about Einstein. Einstein ran into this problem too. Einstein fought with Niels Bohr. Maybe fight quantumly. They might still be alive. Schrodinger's wondering. So, we got Sneezy House. We've got Einstein coming in and bringing his worldview, his deist, occultist, borderline atheist worldview, to interpret the data. So what does he come up with?
So, one of the most amazing things about being a scientist is when you have an opportunity to work on a project which attracts the attention of the science media. And So these are some of the stories that came out after the publication of our paper last year that is the subject of the documentary. And to put things in context, if you write a scientific paper, it's considered successful if a few dozen people cite it, and maybe if a few hundred people read it.
This is the world we used to live in. A few dozen people cite your paper. A few dozen people read it. You're like, yeah, I'm a good scientist. Listen to this.
But by contrast, when the science media gets involved, you can actually communicate your ideas to thousands, hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of people. And so my friend and colleague David Kaiser from MIT, who also features heavily in the documentary, told us that this episode, Einstein's Quantum Riddle, earned a 1.8 national household rating, which actually beat out the Big Bang Theory for that week, which is pretty cool. And it reached a whopping 3.5 million viewers.
3.5 million viewers. We have videos on here with 5 million views, 3 million views, 2.2. It's crazy the reach that the lay person has. How ironic! Wow, this is a simulation moment I'm having. This documentary where they proved quantum entanglement beat out the Big Bang Theory. I mean, they're talking about the TV show, but That's funny. All right. So they're proving quantum entanglement and that light might be instantaneous at any speed, which makes sense to me. Ask Steve in Minecraft. That sunlight isn't taking any amount of time to get to him. Beat out the Bang Theory. Wow, that's good stuff. Can't make it up.
And so that's the leverage that you get when you're able to communicate in these platforms is just so much greater than what we scientists get to do in our normal sort of career. So we're just so incredibly excited to get to share the story with so many people, including all of you here today. So to put the story in a larger context, quantum theory is our best fundamental theory of the subatomic world. It's been with us for nearly 100 years, and it's been extremely well tested experimentally. By some estimates, 30 to 40% of the GDP of the world is based on quantum-enabled technology. So you're talking about transistors, lasers like this laser pointer, semiconductors, digital displays. So basically all computers, TVs, laptops, smartphones, communication satellites. I mean, the list goes on and on.
It's a thing. Quantum mechanics is a thing. It's the semiconductors that work in your phone that have quantum mechanical properties and functionality. I was going to make a video that was like, did Einstein almost make it so you didn't have a cell phone? Or something really catchy, but I didn't. Yeah, it's a thing. Quantum mechanics is the most verified here it is. Quantum mechanics, in the form of electrodynamics, correctly predicts the magnetic moment of the electron to an accuracy about 1 part per trillion, making it the most accurate theory in the history of science. And yeah, it's a thing. This is actually related to this test, I believe. Physicists just reinforced the reality of quantum weirdness in the universe. It's a thing. So I want you to keep that in mind. I get a lot of flack, you can imagine. I get a lot of flack from people saying, science knows everything. Science disproved God. Science knows. Science is a fact. God is a faith, but science is a fact. Like, they're just wrong always. They're just like, here, if you want to make a scientific prediction that will not fail, predict that many things that we consider science and scientific theory or highly probable theories right now, they're going to be wrong. Like, very likely in 100 years or 50 years or 20 years or today. The Big Bang, evolution, abiogenesis, all of it. So they're trying to find, did life come from another planet? Did we have multiverse? The theories they have, entirely belief-based, biased belief systems. And it's okay to believe that we're in an intelligently designed order. It's very likely that we are. And it's to me, they keep looking for, if you study science like I do, you keep looking for the unified theory, the theory of everything. You keep hearing this is the theory of everything. They want to find this theory. Well, I think the theory of everything is that we are an information-based reality generated around the users, the consciousness of man. That God put us here to test us for his delight. This is one of the things it says in Scripture. The universe, we exist for his basically enjoyment. He gets a kick out of this. He wanted to do this. And there's something bigger than that, but for his glory, for his entertainment, for a relationship with the living God. Purpose. There's a purpose to this. It's not an accident. Science is trying to figure this out. Well, Einstein was wrong for almost 100 years because he was just biased in his worldview. So, they're trying to figure this out. Pick this back up. Go.
And in addition, as the documentary will go into more detail about, there are several emerging technological applications in encryption and computation that fundamentally rely on quantum entanglement. So despite the esoteric nature of the subject, it's actually a very practical subject today. But unfortunately, even though quantum mechanics has been around for nearly a century, experts still disagree about what the theory actually means about the world, about the true nature of reality. In other words, there's no consensus interpretation of quantum theory.
Did you hear that? I mean, I'm a nature of reality guy. Just listen to the implications of this thing.
Implications in encryption and computation that fundamentally rely on quantum entanglement. So despite the esoteric nature of the subject, it's actually a very practical subject today. But unfortunately, even though quantum mechanics has been around for nearly a century, experts still disagree about what the theory actually means about the world, about the true nature of reality. In other words, there's no consensus interpretation of quantum theory. And one of the most tricky issues involves the nature and meaning of quantum entanglement. So what is entanglement? Essentially, it's a phenomenon where you have pairs of particles that maintain a special...
Before he gets into this, I just want to stress that again. Nature of reality is what I titled this live. It's something we don't even think about. The nature, the essence, the point, the purpose. What is this thing that we call reality? One of the more devastating truths of our synthetic, digital, social media reality is that we've lost touch with that question. What is this thing we call reality? You just take it for granted until somebody dies and you're like, it's the worst thing ever. I don't understand it. It is amazing to be alive. And we are potentially in eternity already. We die here. We don't cease to exist. We spend eternity ideally with the living God. We were invited to the show. Congratulations. You have the golden ticket. You have been invited to the greatest show in history. A chance to live and breathe and eat and love and drink coffee and know God. Not necessarily in that order. And we don't even think about it. We just forced taught that we're just animals. We had that live the other night and I shorted out. I think we had 500 people in the room or 300. And they said, there's no difference between human and animals. And I said, you can't believe that. And they said, name the differences. And I did this whole list, We fly and we build tools and we love and we whatever. And they said, no, we're just animals. We're just animals in an insignificant, meaningless universe. This is frustrating. Because the truth is, we don't know. And believing this is getting them nowhere. Nowhere. They're nowhere closer to solving this than Einstein. They literally, today, it's been 80 years since Einstein said no. Closer to 100. And we still have no idea because nobody's looking at you can't solve this problem. Think of it this way. This is an analogy that I'm going to try to work through. Okay, tonight I tried to turn on OBS and Actually, the last time I tried to do a live show, a live stream, same thing happened. Connecting, disconnecting, connecting, disconnecting. There's like 12,000 settings. I have no idea. I'm not a tech guy. Like, what do? Is it the internet? I don't know. So I went through the list, right? I went, I unplugged the internet and tried it. Said there's no connection. Okay, so my internet's fine, okay? Something in the program. I can't do the settings. So I uninstalled it and reinstalled it. And thankfully that worked. You go through a process. Where am I wrong in my thinking? Where could this error be? If you're a mechanic, the car's not starting, right? Does the battery have... Is it making a sound? Or is it just nothing? Is it the battery? Okay, the battery's good. Okay, is it the starter? Okay, the starter's good. Is it the fuel line? You kind of go down bit by bit. What's the most easy to test, easy to fix? And you just go down until you find the problem, and then you fix the problem. They can't fix this problem because they're out of gas. Because they refuse to believe that it could be created. I can't make this any more simple than this. Ready? Scientist, Einstein in the grave, anybody else listening, future scientist inspired by people questioning the system. If something made this reality, this is very important. If something made this reality and you refuse that potentiality, you will never get the right answer. Period. You just can't, this is it. If the car doesn't get gas, it's not going to start. If the car doesn't have a battery, it's not going to start. This is this is the very first thing you have to think about. And if you're trying to do good science and you're trying to crack a riddle like, hey, how in the hell did the universe get here? What is this thing called reality? If you omit the idea that there is a creator and it is created, you're going to spend 100 years and they will spend 100 more years chasing their godless secular tales. Nope. Nope. Hey, what if we make a bigger particle collider? This is the dumb shit they do. This is literally what they do. Well, we collided particles and we didn't get the answer. What is the answer? I don't know. We just can't figure it out. Can't figure it out. Let's make a bigger collider, bigger explosion. Sweet, we did it. And nope, no new answers. Let's build a telescope and look really far into the universe. We don't see the thing. This is the meetings they have. Well, we need a bigger telescope. We need to see further. They build a bigger telescope. Same problem. This is a foundational root problem, and it's a philosophy problem. Somebody just said in the chat, don't use your brain, just say God did it. No, that's exactly the opposite of what I'm saying. Use your brain, God may have done it. Use your brain and God may have done it. That's a false binary. And I'm not going to engage in chat because I'm doing the YouTube show here. But this is what you just said, Dave the Wave 57, is the problem. Because literally young scientists are afraid to mention God, to say God, to think God, because they don't want to be considered stupid or incapable of thought. Or just don't use your brain and say that God did it. No, use your brain and at least entertain the idea that God did it, or you won't get the right answer. Or do this dumb shit and just say God didn't do it. There's no way, and keep looking and build bigger and bigger telescopes and just get the same answer. It's a null value. I don't want to live in a world where we teach intelligent design in school. I don't want to do that. I want to live in a world where we don't teach evolution in school. That is more important to me. We don't know. We don't know how the universe got here. We don't know when it got here. We don't know how man got here. We don't know how life got here. We don't know these things. You can believe them, great. Let science be science, and then make an origins class. Oh, this is speculative origins class, and you can teach evolution and panspermia and the Bible and the Quran and the Bahar Marta, I don't know what it's called, Bhagavad Gita. I don't know. You can just teach all of those. Let science be science and faith/religion be that. They're mixed together and we exclude God, and it's a mess. Science is a mess right now. Okay, that's quite a rant. All right, let's go.
Connection, no matter how far apart they are from each other, and no matter how long ago they became entangled. And as soon as you measure some property of one particle in the entangled particle pair, you instantly know something about a future measurement outcome on its partner. And this is true, even though on either side the measurement outcomes can appear to be completely random. So Einstein himself didn't like quantum entanglement and didn't like quantum mechanics, and he dismissed the phenomenon as so-called spooky action at a distance.
Okay, we're going to get into the Einstein thing here in 1 second. But before I do, let me explain quantum entanglement to you. I'll do 2 Sharpies. This is how quantum entanglement works, as I understand it. Quantum entangled particles exist separate from each other. And they can be, for the sake of this argument, in 2 positions. They can be vertical or horizontal. They're not always vertical, and they're not always horizontal. The example they use in Einstein's riddle, I should probably just play it, is Jack and Jill are twins, and they live on other sides of the country, and they can get brownies or cookies for their dessert, and every time Jack gets a brownie or cookie, Jill is in a diner in another part of the world, and one gets a brownie, the other gets a brownie. Next time they get a cookie, the other one gets a cookie. They always get the same thing. These always go vertical, they always go horizontal, as respective of each other. But they're always different. It's never, and it's not a pattern, right, up, like a Nintendo program, up, left, right, BBA, start, select, start. It's not like that. It's like right, up, left, down, whatever. They're always the same. And these pens can be in an infinite distance apart. And it's always going to be the same. Einstein didn't like it. Shouldn't be. Shouldn't measure this one, and this one's in the same state every time. Shouldn't be. I don't like it. So what these guys did is they tested a photon that came from a quasar 6 billion light years away. Or instantaneously. Whatever. Boom. Took it. Measured them. Same thing. Same phenomenon. That's what quantum entanglement is. Now, what does this mean? Because if this pen and this pen are on the other side of, if they're, let's say they're a light year away. Hey, go right. Hey, go right. Go right. Go right. Go right. Go right. There's a delay. Other side of the universe. Hey, go right. This is where non-locality comes in. This is a big deal. Because either information can travel between these instantaneously at any distance. Did you hear me? Instantaneously at any distance. 6 billion light years away. Instantaneously. What would be the speed for them at 6 billion light years away? If it takes 6 billion light years at the speed of light, what would be instantaneous? What would be that speed? More than 6 billion times, because that would only be 1 year. 6 billion times how many seconds instantaneous in a year? It'd be infinitely faster. How does this work? They have to figure it out. They don't know. This is why we have to use philosophy. Because it doesn't. What is your philosophy? What is it? What could this possibly mean? This is why they're saying in here the very nature of reality. Now, let me give you my Einsteinian, could be proven wrong in 1 minute or 1 year or 50 years or 100 years. My belief, it's not my theory, I've heard it on a simulation documentary, but you see me right now on this TikTok screen. And let's see, it's a 4x7 screen, so figure 3 inches apart. You see my hands at 3 inches apart, right? Are my hands really 3 inches apart? This is a question I'm asking. You see my hands. If you were to measure my two Sharpies, On the phone right now, it'd be 2.5, 3.5 inches, something like that. Are these actually 3 inches apart? That's my question. On the phone, it's 3 inches. Literally, that's the location that you see. In real life, are these 3 inches apart? No. Thank you for this answer. Thank you guys for listening. You're so awesome. Okay. They're probably, I don't know, 22 inches apart, let's say. What this means is that from your perspective, the distance looks a lot closer than in reality. So you are seeing a representation of reality. This is, I'm just like, as I'm processing this, this is making more sense to me even. You're seeing a representation of my reality. You're not seeing my reality. It's going through this and going through the satellites and whatever. And on your computer screen, their location is an illusion, because the information processor that is sending the black pixel, make this pixel black, make this pixel white, make this pixel red. That's how it works. There's if you got a 4K image, it's 4,000 pixels. So pixel number 1,200 is black. Number 3,200 is black. Okay, make them white, make them black. The location is an illusion. What you're seeing is information and how the information is represented, and the information on one end of your screen to the other end of your screen is the same distance from the processor. Are you following? Am I making sense of that? So realistically, this Sharpie cap isn't any further from the processor as this Sharpie cap, as the top of my screen, my head, my nose, my body, nothing. That's actually an illusion. It's an illusion, and the information is coming from the processor to the screen. What is that distance? A 1/16 of an inch? And that can travel at light speed. Is how your phone is able to go so fast. It only has to travel from in your computer or into the processor into the screen. It's instantaneous, basically. I think this is how light basically works. Okay, so in my paradigm, in God having built this reality in an information-based way built around the consciousness of man, space is an illusion. This is called non-locality. This means that location is an illusion. This is how crazy this is. This means that the distance between me and you guys, I see Rachel, she's in Texas. I don't know where John Campbell is. I need to know where more people are. Morsey's in the south somewhere, Tennessee. I think Tennessee. This means that literally the distance between me and my wife in the other room, and Rachel, and Glam, and Candace, and the rest of VOR family, whoever, Morsey, everybody. It's an illusion. It would mean that location... Oh, sorry, Alabama. I know where Matt Hurley is. You're going to roll check. Okay, this would mean that literally the distance between us all is an illusion. And quantum field theory is really close to figuring that out. Basically, there's no difference between what makes up anything that makes me up and what makes up the air and whatever's between us. This is how weird this is all going to get. But can you imagine a reality where you could pray for somebody and it would affect them because it's irrespective of distance? You could lay hands on someone virtually. You could, people believe stuff all the time. My wife is convinced that I curse the NFL with my fantasy football players. I might. I hope not. I don't know. I don't mean to. I'm not supposed to curse anybody. I just get kind of weird fantasy football luck. Anyways, don't gamble. Okay. So, quantum entangled particles, this is bizarre. What does it mean? In my worldview, it makes sense. I just read in Hebrews. What does it say in Hebrews? For by faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. There's an invisible substrate to this reality, and I believe it's information-based. By faith we know that the worlds were framed by the word of God. The word of God is information. Okay, I got to rewind this just a smidge. Now, what does Einstein do with this? I.e., what it becomes accepted scientific fact.
Actually, it's a phenomenon where you have pairs of particles that maintain a special connection no matter how far apart they are from each other, and no matter how long ago they became entangled. And as soon as you measure some property of one particle in the entangled particle pair, you instantly know something about a future measurement outcome on its partner. And this is true, even though on either side the measurement outcomes can appear to be completely random. So Einstein himself didn't like quantum entanglement and didn't like quantum mechanics, and he dismissed the phenomenon as so-called spooky action at a distance, since it seemed to violate his theory of special relativity.
That's one of the reasons he really hated it, is it totally shot his theory out of the water. Anyways, I want to answer something here. Whomever made the DNA code is a computer. No, truther girl. Whoever made the computer code is a programmer. Big difference. The code is digital information in the computer.
Which held that no information can travel faster than the speed of light. And while we now know that you can't actually use entanglement to transmit information faster than light, sadly, it's still true that the phenomenon of entanglement is something that we admittedly don't know how to tell a convincing story about that tells us what's really going on.
How to tell a convincing story about what is really going on. Now, I understand what trying to defense them. That's science, okay? That's science in a nutshell. How do we tell a convincing story? I did a 7-minute rant in front of, 500 atheists today on a live with Blitz and a few others. And I told the story of the biblical account of creation. And then I told the story of the standard model. And I just said to the users, which of these, using logic and deduction, trying to remove all biases, is more likely? And I kind of trapped them in that I got them to say they're both equally. I got them to say that they're both magic. They're both equally likely. And that's the truth. They're both like that. We don't know. We don't know. Your bias is going to have you tell a story about what it means. This is the interpretation of the data. You hear me say things like, you use your philosophy to interpret the data. This is what that means. We still don't know how to tell a convincing story about what in the hell it is. We got no idea. Science. But you got to believe what we say. Oh, and also we'll always be wrong. But can't question us. It's easy. Listen to him say it again.
Of special relativity, which held that no information can travel faster than the speed of light. And while we now know that you can't actually use entanglement to
Sorry, YouTubers. I'm engaging a little bit with the chat. This stream key isn't hitting the algorithm, so I've got few enough people in here to be able to actually keep up with the chat tonight. The person says they're both equally likely until you try to use them to make a prediction. Yes. However, many accurate predictions have been made by people who believe in God. And they're going to continue to be made. Every day we're getting more and more scientific predictions verified. And this one to me, okay, so Jason Lyle predicted that the James Webb Space Telescope at 13.5 billion light years would see fully formed galaxies. And he was the only scientist to get it right. No credit, because we're not invited to the club. The guy who found the under ocean currents, OMADs, or whatever they're called, Michael Moore, I think, something like that. He read in Psalms the ways of the water, and he was into the ocean, and he was a ship man, it's a technical term, and he went and looked for him and found him. There are scientific predictions. You could have made a scientific prediction. I made the whole series like this, that the universe has a beginning. You could have made that scientific prediction based on the scripture. Einstein believed in a steady state. You could have said, I predict that you're going to find a beginning of the universe, and you would have been totally right. You could have said, according to scripture, the heavens are being stretched out. He stretches out the heavens. You could have predicted that the universe is expanding. You could have predicted that. You could have predicted that we would find one man and one woman that we were all related to. Y chromosomal Eve, Y chromosomal Adam, mitochondrial Eve. That happened. You would have predicted that catastrophic geologic formations would have happened as a result of massive floods, or I believe a flood, but you get into a worldview thing. That ended up happening. You could just go down the list, and we're going to find more and more of these things. So anyways, I know those are all dismissed, but that's the answer to that. Now, please, Luke, let this play, because this is where it gets good.
Transmit information faster than light, sadly. It's still true that the phenomenon of entanglement is something that we admittedly don't know how to tell a convincing story about that tells us what's really going on. And Einstein hoped that eventually some other fundamental theory, more fundamental than quantum mechanics, would eventually come around to explain entanglement. So in his skepticism towards quantum theory, Einstein...
When you think of Einstein, do you think of him going, "Oh, I hope nothing comes out to totally destroy my theory, at least not until after I die. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious." That's what Einstein did there. He goes, something's coming down the pike. I got my fingers crossed. Well, it didn't. And it has only gotten worse for him. And this is a big reason why I'm doing this. You know what? Einstein was wrong. Fine. He was right about some things. We got lasers because of him. He did some other things that were right. But he really was wrong about steady-state universe, the cosmological constant, and this quantum mechanics fiasco. And you just don't hear it. Why? Because he's absolutely propped up as the champion of naturalist, materialist science. He is a material girl, and he lives in a material world. And this is why we live in a material world. Because Einstein had a big enough voice that just, it's like, damn to be the truth. We don't live in a weird non-locality, quantum entanglement, spooky action at distance, observer effect reality. We don't. Niels Bohr him and Niels Bohr debated. John Bell gets relegated to basically like weird magazines and stuff where he can publish his papers. This information was suppressed, and now it's here. And nobody knows. I mean, if you look at it, hey, are we in an immaterial reality based on the consciousness of man? Yeah, we are. Why isn't that being taught in school? Why? Hey, I lobby for teaching the chitlins. I hereby decree on this night, December 15th. Wow, I broke my femur 31 years ago today. Wow, that changed my life. That's why I do this, because of that moment. Anyways, another story. December 15th, 2022, I decree that the kiddos should be taught that we live in a bizarre quantum reality. Maybe the user affects the outcome. Maybe time and space is an illusion, and maybe it's an information-based reality, and maybe your life matters. I decree. I don't think it's going to happen. It's a good idea, though. You might get a bunch of kids who think they're healthy and think they're capable of anything, and don't just want a 30-year mortgage and 60% of their life money is going to the Federal Reserve or whatever it is. And anyways,
Einstein advocated a worldview which has come to be called local realism, and for many years his worldview seemed to be primarily a philosophical one, disconnected from any real-world experiments or tests. But in the 1960s,
I'm not making it very far.
There's a way to make...
I am not making it very far in this video.
Theory, more fundamental than...
Listen to this.
So in his skepticism towards quantum theory, Einstein advocated a worldview which is...
I got to rewind it a little bit. Just know I'm a bias-based researcher. People know that about me, and I'm very clear about that. I believe what I believe, and I, just like everybody else, find data to support my worldview. But imagine me, I listen to dozens of hours of these kind of things a week. This is where, when I can have a discussion with Blitz or a geneticist or, a geologist or whatever. It's because I research all of these things. So I listen to these things all the time. And I come across this stuff. I mean, I've done 50 of these episodes of VOR radio. I come across this stuff way more than you would think. I came across another article tonight. I've got so many of these things I need to break down, but listen to this. When he said this.
So Einstein himself didn't like quantum entanglement and didn't like quantum mechanics, and he dismissed the phenomenon as so-called spooky action at a distance, since it seemed to violate his theory of special relativity, which held that no information can travel faster than the speed of light. And while we now know that you can't actually use entanglement to transmit information faster than light, sadly, it's still true that the phenomenon of entanglement is something that we admittedly don't know how to tell a convincing story about that tells us what's really going on. And Einstein hoped that eventually some other fundamental theory, more fundamental than quantum mechanics, would eventually come around to explain entanglement. So in his skepticism towards quantum theory, Einstein advocated a worldview which has come to be called local realism, and for many years, his worldview seemed to be primarily a philosophical one, disconnected from any real-world experiments or tests. But in the 1960s,
that's going to be my first tattoo. Einstein advocated for something that we call now local realism. That means that reality is real and location is real. I believe it, I believe it, I believe it. Don't take this from me. It ruins my theory, bums me out. It's real. But his philosophy was totally void of any science. Totally philosophical. Albert Einstein. Yep. Hey, damned be the science and the information. Niels Bohr, John Bell, get out of here. Quantum entanglement, out. Just get out. You get out of here. I want to believe in local realism. You can't tell me what to believe. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. There's no science to back it up. How does that make you feel? I got a guy in here who's like kind of, defending, whatever. I'm slightly defending Einstein and attacking me, like, what happens with the atheist thing. How does that make you feel? Albert Einstein. I'm realizing as I rant this out that I did not encapsulate my passion for this in my hippie video. I failed. I blame Filmic and rear-facing cameras. Wasn't based in science at all. Just his belief. Just what Einstein believed. I believe what I want. I believe what I want. And I believe in secular materialism. And I believe the universe has always existed. And I believe quantum mechanics isn't a thing. Well, Einstein, I believe that God created this reality. And it's an information-based reality. And that the observer affects the outcome. And guess which of these is more parsimonious with the truth? Guess which of these two... I fall. Guess which of these two belief systems is actually more supported by the data and truth and reality? Mine.
'60s. So in his skepticism towards quantum theory, Einstein advocated a worldview which has come to be called local realism, and for many years, his worldview seemed to be primarily a philosophical one, disconnected from any real-world experiments or tests. But in the 1960s, John Bell, a famous physicist, took some of Einstein's ideas, formalized them mathematically, and actually came up with a way to do an experiment which could distinguish between quantum mechanics and these alternative models that Einstein so wanted to be true.
So
this theoretical result, called Bell's inequality, it's derived from starting point of several extremely reasonable sounding assumptions about the world. So one of them is realism, and this is just the idea that the real world exists independent of our
This is going to get into a whole lot. I've covered enough about what quantum entanglement is. I'm going to fast forward to something here, to another video. Hey, this is how you make your thing work again. Right here.
Big Sur, California.
Okay, so what happens is John Bell, who is an absolutely brilliant physicist, starts piecing together some of Einstein's ideas and going, you know what, I think you're wrong. This is how this actually works. And he's the one who came up with a working experiment for quantum entanglement. And the Bell's eraser, I forget what it's called, but they create a theory and they test it and it's true. But it wasn't that simple, because as science works, you have an idea and you got to publish the paper and they got to accept your paper and other people got to tear it apart and eventually you end up with a consensus, whatever. John Bell was trying to get his correct, the word is correct, for those keeping score at home, the word is correct theory, that all of the computers and internet and 40% of our GDP relies on and is the most accurate theory in the history of science. He was trying to get the scientific community to hear him out. Hey, I got this thing. It's kind of a big deal. You know, computers and the best theory ever. Anybody interested? Nope. So if you think that somebody just said in here, Bell inequality, yeah, Bell's inequality. That was his theory. I think he did a test to validate it. So the guy says in here, it's not a conspiracy. Let me see here. What is it? Many scientists are religious. It's not an atheist conspiracy. I disagree. Now, I'm a conspiracy guy, so I'm going to disagree. I don't know if I want to get into that entire discussion, but we could get into Mary Schweitzer and a case study and Jack Horner's, what I would say, handling of her, and the combination of basically scaring people into not saying anything and then convincing people that believing this is a problem, and then defunding people that question the narrative. Basically what I'm going to show you right now. This is where, and I know what the answer is going to be, but this is where it's at least, if whether it's an atheist conspiracy, it's actually, I think it's further than atheist. I think the devil runs the world system and he's hiding God, but it could just be a old guard, biased, incorrect, multi-generational result of bad science being epigenetically passed down, and then also academically passed down. Listen to this.
This is all about what amazing, ridiculous, crazy things Gary Zukav learned during that first month-long Esalen workshop. The whole book is organized around the new, exciting developments coming out of this fundamental physics group and the physics consciousness research group, and now being hosted at places like Esalen. Here's one of my favorite photographs, the Berkeley physicist Henry Stapp, who was just about the only member of the fundamental physics group who had, if you like, a regular, steady physics job. He was actually a very senior staff scientist on staff at the Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory, and had, for various reasons, had become interested in these kind of philosophical questions of consciousness, quantum theory, and perhaps the paranormal. He had an open mind, if not he was a skeptic, but he'd listened about it. So he was a regular lecturer at these Esalen workshops. P.S. This place, Esalen, which is world famous for harboring all things countercultural, New Age, and hippie, the single longest running lecture series or workshop series in the place's history was on Bell's theorem in quantum mechanics. It was this group, which then was held annually with very few gaps for well over a decade. And that's where people would go, sometimes physicists from Europe who couldn't get kind of discussion partners on Bell's theorem either. They would fly over from Paris or from Heidelberg, get naked in the hot tubs, at least according to legend, and talk about Bell's theorem and its perhaps wider implications. So it's one thing to talk about this new set of ideas in the hot tubs or around the seminar discussion table at Berkeley Laboratory. How do you get the word out beyond this very immediate Bay Area locale?
So, a little bit of backstory to get you in there. These are the fundamental physics group, hippies. Somebody's funding this thing. I don't advocate for them. They are esoteric, hallucinogenic, new agey hippies. And I don't mind hippies, but the new agey kind, quantum consciousness thing, just got to be very clear, that's not my thing. Okay. Some people mentioned that on that video, that pro fundamental physics group. I'm pro anti-establishment figures. I am pro people who challenge the mode of thought, the incorrect mode of thought, in their whatever their motivation is, political freedom, upsetting a regime, toppling an anti-God scientific system, and winning. I'm pro David and I'm anti Goliath. That's my stance. Would you say that you're pro David or pro Goliath? Pro David. I'm team David. Boo Goliath. So, anyways, they're all working together. They couldn't get. Nobody could talk about this. It's like, shh, don't talk about Bell. Don't talk about Bell. It's bad. Bad. It's like a 4-letter word in physics. So, they're getting together, partying, hot tub, whatever, and they go, how do we get this information down? We can't. This is just we got to get this somewhere. Let's publish a paper. Let's publish a paper. What is the preeminent physics review journal? What is this thing? It's like the renowned paper publishing depot, site, whatever, journal. What happens?
That was, physicists would say, non-trivial. The main workhorse of a journal, our much beloved Physical Review, had literally banned articles on the philosophy or interpretation of quantum mechanics. It's a formal ban. The longtime editor, Sam Goudsmit, a great physicist and a great editor, he had no patience for these things. Not just the Uri Geller stuff, even for things that Niels Bohr himself had published on in the Physical Review in earlier years. He drew up a special sheet of instructions for referees. If a paper looked like it might sort of smell the wrong way, this looks like it's too philosophical, he would send it out for review with this extra special sheet of referee instructions saying, feel free to reject this, hands down. No need to justify it. Tell me if it falls in this category. That's how formal the ban was into the early mid-1970s at the Physical Review.
The editor literally banned discussion about Bell's theorem of quantum entanglement. Now, the defense, the secular defense, is it was too philosophic. Well, guess what? This requires a worldview. And guess what? All science is philosophic. Yeah, it's a secular worldview. It's a philosophy. It's literally philosophy, which I'll address these comments the guy said here in a minute. It's not a conspiracy. Okay. It's at least a soft conspiracy. And two major points to support this right now, and I've got more. And I think I might make a series on this. Maybe somebody remind me. I'll try to make a note for myself. Make a series. Maybe I'll get to it. On science blunders. Whatever. Maybe I'll just go watch this video. I won't watch it. I'm not going to make a video on it. These are filled with notebooks of things I need to make videos on. Okay. Case in point number 2 is a geologist named J. Harlan Barretts. J. Harlan Barretts is famous for... Does anybody know? I got a scientific guy in here. Does anybody know what J. Harlan Barretts is famous for? Wish I had more things to drink. That was from yesterday. J. Harlan Barretts destroyed uniformitarianism. Consider me an anti-uniformitarianist. Long word. Lyell said, the father of modern geology, Charles Lyell, Hutton and then influenced Lyell, I believe was the way it went. Lyell said, the key to the past is the present-ish, something like that. All of the processes in action today, causing geologic formations, have been the only ones that have been used eternally. So the river is carving out the Grand Canyon 1/millionth of an inch at a time, whatever, 1,000th of an inch, whatever actually erosion rate is. Therefore, it's been doing that for a very long time. Very rigid uniformitarianist. Deep time, slow processes, nothing catastrophic. Well, it's not an atheist conspiracy. Holy shit, watch this. I can't wait for you to, what the one person in here that's really hitting on this. Go ahead and defend this for me. Maybe I'll just pull it up. It's not an atheist conspiracy, he says. Watch this. Lyell. Freeing science from... Guess who? Lyell saw himself as the spiritual... It's not an atheist conspiracy. Watch this. This argument's done. Lyell saw... If you think this is a Wikipedia thing, I can find another source, but in the essence of time. Lyell saw himself as the spiritual savior of geology, freeing the science from the old dispensation of Moses. Lyell wanted to free science from Moses because do you know what people believed before Charles Lyell? Person in here that doesn't think it's an atheist conspiracy? People believed in the flood. People saw it everywhere. They'd find fossils of animals on top of mountains. They saw major canyons ripped out of the terrain. They believed in the flood. They did. Shit, every civilization has the flood story. And Lyell came in and said, you know what? Just like King Einstein did. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in it. I refuse to believe in it. That I don't believe in. I don't have any data. I just don't believe in it. Lyell, same thing. It's not an atheist conspiracy. Lyell is the father. Absolutely the father. Lyell. Wait, watch this. I'll just do it this way. I won't even softball it. Who is the father of modern geology? Who is the father of modern geology? Hutton. Swing and a miss. Okay. Woo. I should have done that the other way. Should have cherry-picked my answer. Hutton influenced Lyell, I guess. Let's see here. Hutton influenced Lyell, I guess. Whatever. These guys are buddy. I mentioned him a minute ago, but I'm not sure. I guess Hutton started before Lyell. Was one of the most important scientists. Well, whatever. He wrote the textbook that we all read called Principles in Geology. Lyell. He's the guy. He's the guy. So, when J. Harlan Barretts discovered the catastrophic formation of the Missoula flood. Let's see here. J. Harlan Barretts. I don't know what article this is. Kids Connect. J. Harlan Barretts, whatever. I'm just going off the cuff here, but I'll just tell you what he did. J. Harlan Barretts opposed the scientific establishment. He took them down, just like John Bell did, just like the fundamental physics groups did. Close. He took down the standard mode of thought. This is why I said, whatever you think you know now will change. There's a rigid Darwinian, naturalist, philosophic, materialist view, and it will change. It's already changing. Oh, the Big Bang, we know exactly how old the universe is. We know exactly how it formed. No, we don't at all. And as a matter of fact, the data totally contradicted what we believed. Whoa, quantum physics. We know that it's material. Einstein. We know it's material. Spooky action at a distance. I punt on it. Nope, it's real. Oh, the flood didn't happen. Nope. Convergent evolution. We believed in convergent evolution. You know what we don't believe in? Is that there's an Adam and an Eve. We don't believe that. Oh, shit. Y chromosomal atom, mitochondrial leaf. It's whatever. You're wrong. It is wrong. Secular, godless, materialist science isn't wrong. This is why I, as an amateur, a citizen amateur journalist of science, have no problem coming out here because I know I have the truth on my side. And I know that this is changing, and it's changing in our behalf, in our benefit. Look, if you're buying scientific, philosophic stock, and you're buying this bullshit evolution secular narrative, you're going to lose all your money. You need to get out and buy into what we're in. Information-based reality, intelligently designed. This is where you want to put your money, your scientific, philosophic credits, denarii, in this. The standard model is done. It's done. It's on life support, kept on life support by the priests of the religion of science, peddled by the foot soldiers who have been indoctrinated in the universities, who've been force-fed this information from birth, raised by wolves. The science does not support the claim. Get off it. Okay, it's an atheist conspiracy. So, I said that very succinctly. I used history. I used data. What is the response from my guy? Let's see here. You said nothing in response to my proof that it's an atheist conspiracy. And then you said this is all classic creationist talking points. Why don't you actually talk about, refute what I just showed you? The data. Why don't you refute the data? Here are my claims. There is a conspiracy to hide Moses from science, to free science from Moses. And it permeates the entire scientific mode of thought. And intentionally or unintentionally, deductions are not being made accurately, which is why they're back at the drawing board all the time, having to rewrite this story. Oh, science is bad, science is wrong. They give themselves the hall pass. No, it's wrong because it's just fucking wrong. Because your approach is wrong. Because your philosophy needs to be tweaked. It's an anti-God philosophy. Sloppily Joe, let me just make a guess. I'm just going to make a guess here. You're an atheist. Just positing this idea. You might consider yourself an agnostic atheist, but you're an atheist. Am I right? Does it permeate your worldview? Is it affecting how you interpret the data? Are you literally interpreting the data in defense of your belief in your worldview? You know what I know? You guys are scared. This is what I realized. Today when I was on that show and everybody had no answers for what I was saying, and I'm just a guy. The suppressing of this information is an absolute travesty on the history of humanity. And it is the vast majority. 99.9% of all the people that have ever lived, at least 98% of people that have ever lived have believed in something. This new militant atheist, 1/20th of the population right now, is an aberration, a wrong aberration, based on a worldview. You're not the majority. You just have a lot of very powerful people with big, loud voices and a lot of fucking money. That's what you have. Hitchens and Dawkins, Michio Kaku, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye. You know what? Let's get equal share time for Andrew Snelling and Kurt Wise and Jason Lyle and Stephen Meyer and James Tour. Then we'll talk. This isn't a winning proposition. This is the control of information. This is an academic, elitist control of information. And Dawkins has talked about it. Hitchens has talked about it. Huxley. Darwin's bulldog talked about it. Let me see if I can find it. Where would I find this? Huxley, Nature magazine, the X something, X Club. X Club, private scientific dining club, Victorian London, remarkable for the power that its 9 members exerted on the scientific and cultural climate of the 19th century England. I didn't think that I was going to have to just destroy and dismantle your worldview and make you, just change your paradigm. But you poke the bear and you get mauled. This is what's happening. Deal with this information. The X Club, private scientific dining club, and I've never even seen this article. I just knew what to Google. Remarkable for the power that its 9 members exerted on the scientific and cultural climate of the late 19th century England. Remarkable. Founder of the club, Huxley, biologist Tyndall, experimental physicist Lubbock, banker. What the hell's a banker doing? Chemist George Baske. Rejecting the traditions of British natural theology and the privilege of the established church and its educational institution, the X Club represented the naturalistic movement in science. This is going on YouTube. This is one of these is going to go like crazy viral. This is how you talk to an atheist. This is not an atheistic conspiracy. That was the claim. Lyell specifically said he was going to free science from Moses. I waited 10 minutes. The response was, or 5 minutes, this is a talking point. We'll talk about, okay, why don't you talk about the actual data that I'm presenting? The X Club. Has anybody else ever heard this? You know who I can tell you has never talked about this? Another intelligent design advocate. You know why I'm talking about it? Because I came from conspiracy to science. So I see the world differently. I'm not Jason Lyle. I don't have 5 degrees, and I don't believe that NASA hung out on the moon in 1964 or whatever. I think I'm wired differently. Good or bad, whatever. It's something. Reject. This is how I find this. You know how I started researching this, atheists? Because of Brave New World. I told you I come from a conspiracy standpoint. How does Aldous Huxley know? How does he know exactly what's going to happen? He's the grandson of Thomas Henry Huxley. The grandson. This isn't a weird dream prophecy. This is a prediction based on data they had. We are in Brave New World, and it's not a fucking accident. It's not an accident. It was planned. It is planned. The X Club. The X Club. Rejecting the traditions of British natural theology and the privileges of the established church and its educational institutions. The X Club represented the naturalistic movement in science. It's an atheistic conspiracy. Done. It's done. What is your response? There's no response. Bye. Better luck next time. Let's see here. Scientific reasoning trains... Scientific, this is Encyclopedia Britannica. Classical education leads to a true understanding. Let's see here. Scientific reasoning trains the mind as effectively as a classical education and leads to a true understanding of the natural world. Holy shit. Do you guys know Bruce Lee's distant cousin, Holy shit? He made a guest appearance on this tonight. Holy shit. This is crazy. This is craziness. I didn't know this. Thank you for my next video. Nevertheless, they added the highest benefits of science are intellectual. Scientific reasoning trains the mind as effectively as classical education and leads to a true understanding of the natural world. What's another word for natural world? Atheist world. On the basis of these principles, X-Club members claimed cultural leadership for scientists. X-Club members claimed cultural leadership for scientists rather than the clergy. Yes, they are the priests of the new religion of science. It's like, I knew these things, we just put it together tonight. Thank you for helping me put this together. They defended Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution, campaigned for government support for science and jobs for scientists, and demanded a place for science at all levels of education. It is exactly, literally, an atheist conspiracy. The incorrect, what I do is I chew up atheist talking points that are wrong and spit them out and say, you're wrong again. That's pseudoscience and that's misinformation. It's an atheist conspiracy. It's literally the opposite of what the guy said. It's the opposite of it. And Thomas Henry Huxley created Nature magazine. Nature the fuck magazine. Nature magazine. The most pure. So okay. It's not an atheist conspiracy. Natural Review or Physics Review banned talk on quantum mechanics. Nature magazine was made by these yahoos. Designed to take away theology from science. And they created the education system. It looks like they put in for government jobs, and so they're going to train all of the minds of all the children. Yes, this is why I engage with Blitz and Peterson and these guys. And this is why I'm not afraid to talk to them. I don't care how many degrees they have. The more degrees they have, the less ability to think critically they have. I don't have the degrees. This is why a guy like me or other people like me is a threat to them. We can Blitz and I had that discussion today. It's like a nerd conversation, high-level quantum physics. I understand the philosophy of it. I don't understand the mechanism of the mathematics, but I understand what they're trying to convey. It's a worldview. Blitz, it's not a worldview. It is. He says in his thing, I'm a Jew, I'm an atheist Jew. That's his whole thing. Political ideology, he puts his whole thing. He just is very clear about it. Peterson, absolute atheist, and a biology teacher. They're in trouble. And this is why they have to attack me. Listen to me. You don't cut out a man's tongue for speaking the truth. Sorry, that's why you cut it out exactly. It was like a scientist talking there. You don't silence a man and cut out his tongue for lying. That's what I meant to say. That's better. I hope somebody takes that cut and uses it. It's funny. They're afraid of us. And I realize I've been making videos. I get it. You're afraid of me. You're afraid of what I stand for. You're afraid of the me's. Not just me. I'm just one of the foot soldiers in this. It's a shallow, hollow, broken system of lies and enforced with bullying and gaslighting. Where's my atheist? Did he literally he left, didn't he? Is he here not talking, or did he leave? Wow. It's literally an atheist conspiracy, and we've proved it on air. Trust the facts. That just showed up. Where was that? Trust the facts. Trust the science. I was going to show the Neil deGrasse Tyson video. Him talking about the multiverse. But I don't know if I'm going to. I don't think I'm going to. I think I'm going to call that it. I think that's it for tonight. Didn't mean to go there, but yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson was on Joe Rogan, and he goes, yeah, the James Webb, the pictures, none of it matters. Multiverse, it's multiverse. If you get the multiverse, we don't need God, whatever, blah, blah. They just come up with all this nonsense. Should I play the Neil deGrasse Tyson clip? Let me know in the chat, you guys. I can do that and you can do a quick rant on it. Okay. So I don't believe in medical data. It depends on what the medical data is for. Medical data is equally ambiguous. Antibiotics are great for you, and they kill your gut bacteria. I mean, we could go down the list. But you can't just say medical data. Medical data is a word. Give me the data. I'll go point by point. I'll tell you what I agree with and what I'm skeptical of, and what I don't agree with at all. Okay, I'll do the Neil deGrasse Tyson thing. I thought I wasn't going to, but now I'm doing it. Because it just dovetails with this pretty nicely. Just hearing these, after seeing what we just uncovered on live television, I want you to listen to this guy now. And here's what's going on here. Joe Rogan, who's a conspiracy theorist, I think at one point he was a flat earther. I think he's also controlled opposition. He's not, whatever. Anyways. He's like, hey, Neil, tell us about the thing. Tell us about the thing. Didn't the James Webb debunk? I'll just let it play. Now that Neil deGrasse Tyson is literally a song and dance man. You saw me do that on the live a couple weeks ago. It's like he worked in the drama department, and he's like a song and dance man. He's literally a walking soundbite generator. That's what he even says it. He on this interview, he's like, well, what I'm here to do is they put me on the news and they said, Neil, say something smart, sciencey, and that we can use. And he's like, ooh, do. And they're like, yeah, he's our guy. He's a magician. They're priests and magicians, a lot of them.
Forever.
I read an article.
That's my soundbite for the Big Bang.
It's a good soundbite.
Yeah.
I read an article about the Webb
that
telescope, and
that was actually the end of that soundbite thing. He was like, "Let me give you a soundbite thing," and he's like, "Ooh, it's this thing," and he's like, and Joe Rogan's like not impressed. He's like, "That was my soundbite," and Rogan's like, "Yeah, whatever, great soundbite, dude."
As we will, forever.
I read an article.
That's my soundbite for the Big Bang.
It's a good soundbite.
Yeah.
I read an article.
I think
about
Joe Rogan
the
and I will
Webb
have good discussion.
Telescope, and what they were taking into consideration is the possibility that the Big Bang may be incorrect. and that the universe might be larger and older than we
Oh, this is so exciting. This is so exciting for me because this is the first topic I've covered. That's not true. I covered the Canadian thing. I covered the Russia-Ukraine thing. This is the first scientific paradigm-shifting discovery made that I've been able to cover in real time. If you haven't seen my video on it, go back in my YouTube. If you're not, everybody in here, please go subscribe to my YouTube. That's where this is going if you want to catch it tomorrow and send it to people or whatever. But I did a video a couple months ago about the James Webb Space Telescope, and I covered all, just like this, I covered the whole thing. And I said, this is what they're going to do. They're going to change the narrative. They're going to, you know, say instrumentation, whatever. I basically predicted what they're doing, and now it's happening. So here's Rogan saying, you know, the James Webb just proved the Big Bang, right? And Neil's like, no, stop a second. That's crazy talk. Where'd you get that information from? Did you? I'd love to see the source for that. Is it some conspiracy site, Joe? I know you're a conspiracy theorist because you're talking conspiracy. You're a conspiracy theorist. You can't. You don't understand science. No, I saw the pictures with my eyeballs. Who cares what the website is? No, and he watch Joe, dude. If anybody else is like high level, quick deduction, you know, empath. Watch how Rogan responds to this. Joe Rogan's a tough guy. He beat Neil deGrasse Tyson up. He's like a MMA guy. But he attacks his intelligence. Where'd you get this? Where'd you get this information? I'm curious. I'm scared to think of what website this is. No, Neil, it's legitimate. I'm not doing pseudoscience here. Watch this. Watch this exchange.
think.
So, I
may be incorrect. Soundbite.
Yeah.
I read an article about the Webb telescope, and what they were taking into consideration is the possibility that the Big Bang may be incorrect, and that the universe might be larger and older than we think.
So, I hesitate to ask what pages on the internet you hang out on.
It was a legit. It wasn't saying the universe is older. It's saying as more data and new information comes in, there is a distinct possibility that the Big Bang might just be it just might explain the reach of the technology and not the actual scale of the universe itself.
Okay, so the way to think about this is, and this is the way science has worked since basically the year 1600.
For those of you keeping score at home, the way to think about this is, here comes a piece of data coming down the pike here. Did you look at the wrong site? I think you might have been on the conspiracy side of things, Joe. This is how I want you to think.
Where Galileo sort of starts codifying what people knew probably should be happening, but no one really did it in large scale. If you have an idea about something, then you test it multiple ways and get other people to test it. And if the tests give you consistent results, you have a new understanding of the universe. When that happens, that knowledge of the universe doesn't go away. It doesn't get undone. What happens typically is you have a deeper understanding of the universe in which that understanding gets embedded. And you realize that you only understood a small part of a larger whole. But the small parts you did understand, where you had multiple experiments that confirmed it, that doesn't change. So the cleanest example of this, and I'll get back to your question, is Newton's laws of motion and gravity. He did anyone see any?
I forgot. He's going into the whole Newton thing. Watch how here's how I want you guys to think about this, right? Watch him discredit Newton's theories in favor of Einstein's. How fitting for this discussion. I didn't plan that. The best way to see this is that everything that Newton figured out was right, and we totally use it today, and it even gets us to the moon and stuff. But Einstein was better, because Einstein came up with a theory that we literally aren't testing, and it's totally speculative and is probably totally wrong. But you see, he replaced Newton. See? So, since Einstein replaced Newton, and Einstein told us that we're in a material world, and we know that the universe came from nothing because of Einstein, there's a multiverse. And that's how the universe got here. Ta-da. Watch it.
Anything move faster than a galloping horse in his day? Probably not. And so the Newton's laws of motion and gravity worked. They worked not only for galloping horses, it worked for the moon in orbit around the Earth, and the Earth in orbit around the sun, and Jupiter's moons in orbit around Jupiter, all right, and for the planets. So, okay, but wait a minute. It doesn't work for Mercury. Mercury's orbit is not following Newton's laws. Is there something wrong with the data? Let's check it. Data's correct. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Einstein comes along and says, I have a new understanding of gravity and a new understanding of motion. And it accounts for this weirdness in Mercury's orbit.
What was the weirdness?
Its shape was not exactly what Newton's laws of gravity would give you. Its shape could only be accounted for when you throw in Einstein's theory of general relativity. Why? Because the sun's gravity is so monstrous and Mercury's orbiting close enough to it that it's being influenced by extra phenomenon going on in the universe that's the product of very high and significant gravity. And
so I don't speak on this because I don't know. I haven't researched this. So forgive me if I'm making one of my first incorrect, like public incorrect scientific statements. But I think the issue was the light was bending around the sun, proving Einstein's theory that the gravity of the sun is so immense that it affects the light. I think that's what was actually proven. So if that's true, it's totally not what Neil said. I'm just imagining, like, he's like, Joe Rogan's like, what was Mercury doing? Like, Mercury's like around the sun. And Neil's like, it's like, Einstein, Mercury, And Joe Rogan's like, really? He's like, yeah, it's so big. I think it was just the light. I think that what happened is that you had the sun and you had Mercury, and as it came out, it was like fuzzy because it was like the light was being bent. I think that's what happened. I could be wrong, but wouldn't be surprised if he was wrong.
And so then do we throw Newton out the window? No, actually. You know what Newton's laws are? They're what Einstein's laws look like when you put in low speeds and low gravity. If you put in low speeds, they become Newton's laws in that limit. Newton's laws don't stop working where they used to work. Apollo to the moon used only Newton's laws.
Newton to Apollo.
Because Einstein didn't matter at those scales. The moon and Earth and
So Einstein's thing matters more than flying the furthest the fuck man has ever gone on faster than they've ever gone. That's as far as Newton goes. If you're going to want to go further and faster, way further and faster, which you can't do, then Einstein comes in. This is how important Einstein is. Newton will get you to the moon. Einstein will something bigger, faster.
Rockets. We're not going fast enough for any of that to matter. But when you start going fast enough, you cannot use Newton's laws.
No.
You have to use a deeper understanding. Now,
right.
Where does
speed changes,
Einstein take us?
Different.
You go into the center of a black hole, you get black holes from Einstein.
Yep.
Center of black hole, there's a singularity. All the theories say the matter occupies zero volume, thereby having infinite density. And that's kind of weird. What? No, you can't have infinite. No.
So basically Einstein... What the heck? Okay, so basically Newton taught us how reality works, how gravity works, right? Like how like go to the moon, throw a ball, the earth, the sun. He proved it all and believed in God. Very strong Christian. Spent the last part of his life trying to decode the code, trying to look into the Bible codes, actually. But Einstein came up. They came from black holes. Come from Einstein. Did you know that? That's where they came from. He can. That was his scientific contribution. He's shooting out black holes. Whee! Einstein. I need a pipe when I do Einstein. So let's just. So if you want to go in a black hole very fast, that's Einstein's. Everything else, because that's going to go well when you fly into a black hole. I gotta go. Einstein said if I fly into this black hole that he created, I'm gonna whatever. But everything else, Newton was right about. But if you want to go faster than the rockets to the moon into a black hole, this is science, Joe. You see what I'm saying here? You can't believe your eyes. Remember the question? Do you remember the question? Was the pictures contradict your theory? That's the question. Hey, Neil, remember when you thought that you'd see the beginning of the forming of the universe at the beginning of the universe and it was fully already developed? Is this happening? No. Einstein flies into black holes. And Newton was wrong. See? Multiverse. Again, I told you that's how this is going to go. It's just better than I thought. I don't remember being this good.
That's a limit of Einstein's theory. That's where it breaks down. Some have joked that's where God divides.
Why don't I invite Tyson onto my show? I ask you, TikTok universe, YouTube universe, make it happen. There's a couple dreams of mine. It's to debate Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye. I would debate them both at the same time. That's where I want to go. So if somebody can make this happen, make a wish, this is my wish. I mean, I probably shouldn't have said that, but you know what I mean. See if he wants to debate a mullet mohawk guy. That's my wish.
By zero. Remember in math class, you can't divide by zero.
Right.
It's not defined or not allowed. So in Einstein's equations, we're dividing by zero at the singularity. So we all know.
Perfect.
That as brilliant as Einstein was, and as successful as his general theory of relativity has been,
Best scientist ever.
it has limits. And one limit is the center of a black hole, and another limit is the very birth of the universe itself. Getting back to your question, the Big Bang. So we have top people working on trying to resolve this singularity problem. And in so doing, you get to some ideas that, well, maybe our Big Bang, because the Big Bang is not going to go away. All the data support this. So now I've got this Big Bang thing, okay? And, well, is this embedded in something bigger? Ooh. So when you put quantum physics
This is
and
hilarious,
general relativity,
dude. It's literally magic. He's literally doing magic right now.
You try
it's
to
a song
come up
and
with
dance, sleight of
so
hand.
when you put quantum physics and general relativity, and you try to come up with some bigger understanding, deeper understanding, string theorists have been all into this, you get a multiverse. We didn't pull that out of our ass. That came out of the equations. So how old is the multiverse?
Just got to say something here. If you ever say, I'm not pulling this out of my ass, you literally just, that's where you got it. Talk about Einstein's black hole. Neil deGrasse Tyson just pulled that out of Einstein's black hole. That's where that came from. Maybe that was the whole thing's about. That's why he had to go. That's exactly where he got that. Just telling you exactly. I didn't pull that out of there. That's exactly where that came from. Ooh. And he gives a ooh first. Ooh.
Well, is this embedded in something bigger? Ooh. So when you put quantum physics and general relativity, and you try to come up with some bigger understanding, deeper understanding, string theorists have been all into this, you get a multiverse. We didn't pull that out of our ass. That came out of the equations. So how old is the multiverse?
Science. You take quantum mechanics and singularity and Einstein and bingo bongo, bigger thing, James Webb, multiverse. You know what? They're so bad. Okay. I was going to say something about this current conflict that's happening overseas, but I can't. But the wars and rumors of wars thing. Yeah, I can't. YouTube says like you can't, so I can't. But you take pictures of the universe that the James Webb meant to prove the Big Bang, that disproved the Big Bang, or blow massive black holes in it. And the answer is bingo bongo, multiverse. That's the way they went with this. It's like it double plus proved our theory. We weren't wrong. We were exactly right. We were more right than we could have thought we were going to be. We were actually more right than we knew we were capable of being right. The pictures that look like the exact opposite of what we predicted are the best. They're more accurate than we could have even thought of, because we're smarter than we knew we were. Science. That's his answer here.
I don't know. It's definitely older than our universe, because it birthed our universe, and it births other universes, and it births, the way the equations drive it, an infinity of universes.
So the equations thing, Blitz and I had a debate today, and he's like, yeah, the math doesn't at all support this. He doesn't like the Neil deGrasse Tyson. He says that he, as a mathematical theorist, he's like, this is nonsense. From what Blitz says, he's my source in this. The data does not support this. The math does not support this at all. But this is the direction he goes. Not just one, multiple, not just multiple, infinite.
So how old is the multiverse? Deeper understanding. String theorists have been all into this. You get a multiverse. We didn't pull that out of our ass. That came out of the equations. So how old is the multiverse? I don't know. It's definitely older than our universe, because it birthed our universe. It births other universes. And it births, the way the equations drive it, an infinity of universes. This is the idea that maybe there's a version of us.
It birthed our universe. It birthed an infinite amount of universes. Science. Hey, it's not God. God didn't make this thing. We know that. The James Webb just confirmed the multiverse. Did you know that? Infinite universes. That's where it comes from, right from the horse's mouth. The man who represents secular science, secular astrophysical cosmological science, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the authority. The multiverse. This is why you're here. The universe created itself. The universe created the earth. The earth created man, created animals, and you are just a mutated animal. It's not an atheist conspiracy. It's a fact. Scientific reasoning trains the mind as effectively as classical education and leads to a true understanding of the natural world. The multiverse is the definition of a natural world. It's the most natural universe you can come up with. On the basis of these principles, X Club members claimed cultural leadership for scientists, defended Darwin and his theory of evolution, campaigned for government support for science and jobs for scientists, and demanded a place for science at all levels of education. The multiverse, infinite realities, multiverse, abiogenesis, just go down the list. I started this morning with a debate about this. I closed tonight with the summation. The Bible got right that there was a beginning. Einstein was wrong. He said there was no beginning. Einstein got right that the universe is expanding. Einstein didn't get any of that right. The Bible got those things right. I'm not going to do a full recap. I've done it enough times tonight. I'm going to wrap up. Okay. Thank you guys for being here. Trust the book. God is good. God is real. Be excited. Be excited when the new scientific data comes out. Be excited about it, because we're watching a revolution. We're involved in a revolution, a scientific revolution. Our history was taken from us and we're getting it back. And our history is the book, the Bible. I don't know if I want to go back on TikTok. What do you guys think, family? Plan is looking at what the scientists said with the cosmic bell experiment, which is one of the most exciting things in science. Like, if you're actually excited about